Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of Book Talks with me, Jonah Lopez. Today we will be discussing To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I read this a while ago back in school, and I think I was just too young to appreciate it, but rereading it now, it's a really good book. The story pretty much is a coming-of-age story, and it's told from the perspective of this young girl. Her name is Jean Louise, but everyone calls her Scout, and her brother Jem. They both live with a single father, Atticus, who's a lawyer in this small town in the South during the 1930s, so it's a very racist time. And it's, like I said, it's a coming-of-age story in which it kind of goes into their childhood where they're very innocent, they're just playing games in their yard. And it's first apparent when Jem starts changing like his ways and his views of the world, and that kind of happens in the second part of the book once the whole court case happens with Atticus. And instead of kind of hiding and isolating his children from the real world, Atticus is more assertive in how he brings them up, and he wants them to see what the world really is like, and he wants to create these values and morals around that to kind of cope with the cruelties and unfairness of the actual world. So, I mean, the values that he kind of implements on Jem are courage, and he describes courage as not a man with a gun, just kind of wild and crazy, but a person who's willing to go against the odds, and knowing that he's most likely will lose, will still take action. And this is apparent when Atticus takes the court case. He's defending a colored man in a racist white town, and he knows he's pretty much, he has his back against the wall, yet he still takes the case, and he still defends Tom Robinson, I believe is his name. And with all the hate coming from his neighbors and stuff, he still perseveres through it, and he does his best to bring justice. Unfortunately, he loses the case, but he knew that from the beginning, and he still stood up for his morals and his beliefs in defending Tom. So that's kind of something that he wanted to implement to Jem, is what true courage is and what it is to kind of be a man in an unfair and unjust world. As for Scout, he wants to kind of teach her about sympathy and how to view the world from someone else's perspective, because during school, she gets in a lot of fights and stuff with people that argue with her, and Atticus kind of tells her to step back a little and kind of look at the world through their eyes. So kind of wearing the other person's skin, or just walking in their shoes is I think the metaphor he uses. But yeah, it's just about sympathy and finding the good within everyone, no matter if they're cruel to you. It's just what it is, sympathy. And this is kind of apparent at the end of the story when Scout goes and walks Boo Radley back to his house, and she's standing on his porch, and she sees the view of the neighborhood from his perspective. And it's just a good way to close the book. So those are the main themes, just kind of loss of innocence in the real world, and learning values and persevering through the injustices and cruelty of the real world, because it's not a perfect place, and it takes courage to stand up for what you believe in, and it also takes sympathy to understand the other person, even if their morals and their beliefs are different than yours. So very, very great book. I highly recommend it. You can see mine's falling apart. Used bookstore. So yeah, Also, I wanted to announce the book of the month for May. We're in April, so yeah, May. I'm gonna do Joseph Heller's Catch-22. Heard a lot of good things about this book. Honestly, don't know what to expect, so kind of excited for that one. And I'll post a link in the description, so if you want to follow along, you can. I'll also post one for To Kill a Mockingbird, just because I used to go to the used bookstores, but with this whole quarantine thing, it might be a little tricky to get your hands on books. So yeah, I think that'll do it for this episode, but I look forward to discussing topics on Catch-22. Not sure how I'm going to do it, if I'm going to break it up into parts or if I'm just going to do a talk at the end. We'll kind of play it by ear, but I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you at the next episode.